And joining us now is the third-year head coach of the GCA Varsity Baseball Gators, Pat Nichols. Hey, Pat, good to have you with us.
Hey, John, that was some introduction. I appreciate it.
So, look, third year, this is your third season, and just give a little background for the serious program that Coach Pat Nichols has going on. Is the Gators ranked number 2 in the area? They're one of the top teams this season in the entire state of Virginia. But I want to talk a little bit about Pat Nichols because Pat played for Greenbrier Christian Academy. Then he got a D1 scholarship, went to Coastal Carolina for 2 years, then went to Old Dominion, got drafted by the Nationals organization, and got up to AAA and went to 2 spring training camps. That is pretty neat. That is except for being a major league player, I mean, that is about as elite as you can get. So I just want to talk about, Pat, your career for a minute. How long were you in the AAA, and what was it like going to national spring training?
It's one of those things you work your whole life for. It's a grind. A lot of people think it's glamorous. I mean, you got guys in spring training getting ready for their season. It's their job, and they want to make sure they get ready to perform. But on the flip side, you look around at all these players that in my case, that I grew up watching play, and major league stars that I've seen on TV all these years, and you hit that moment where you're kind of starstruck. But no, baseball for me, it was a fun ride. It's I got to live my dream. I got to be I was drafted. I got to hear my name called. In the major league draft, I got to work my way up the minor league system. Never was fortunate enough to play at the tip top, but that's not to say that I wasn't very successful.
Pat, having worked so hard and gone so far, and been part of that, very few people make it to the level that you were at, Pat Nichols. What led to your decision to say, you know what, I'm done. I'm just not going to get there. I mean, I would think that would have been, after so many years and so much hard work and dedication, a very tough decision to make. How to just walk us through how you arrived there one day.
I've been asked that question a lot of times. That was a real hard decision. I think a lot of times, no matter what you're doing, you kind of hit a point where you say enough is enough. But in my particular case, with baseball, maybe I shouldn't have stopped when I stopped, but I watched the Washington Nationals sign Pudge Rodriguez, and I just didn't feel like I was ever going to be a long-term. And at the time they had a couple other catchers that they saw as being the future of their major league franchise, and I just didn't see myself ever as having a future in the major leagues with the Nationals. And as a professional baseball player, eventually you hit a point where you say, hey, I'm either going to do this as a job, or I've got to move on and get one. So I did my time, but I hit that day where I just said enough is enough.
All right. So when you were at one of the spring training camps, just give us one of your best stories.
Oh, okay. Here, I got a story for you.
Okay.
So I'm at spring training with the Nationals, and I'm over at the minor league complex, and we were playing this team. I don't remember who we were playing, but one of the guys took a back swing, and he swung the bat, and it came around, and I was a catcher, and it hit me straight on top of the head, and it kind of knocked me to my knees, right? And that was kind of in the days before we did all the impact tests to determine if you had concussions or whatnot. But now the game is very monitored. But anyway, I'm sitting there, and I stagger back up onto my knees and work my way back onto my feet, and I'm like, okay, I'm fine. I take my helmet off, and there's the blood running down the sides of my face, and I'm like, oh, this isn't good. Well, they take me over to the major league camp where the doctors can, sew me up and stuff like that. Next thing you know, I look up, and I've got Ryan Schneider, who was the catcher for the Nationals, and Ryan Zimmerman, who, and it was at least 10 other big league guys that were on the major league team sitting there literally watching this doctor put stitches in my head. And all of a sudden I looked up, and I'm just going, oh my gosh, guys, is that really this interesting? And they're like, oh, this is awesome. But anyway, that's a fun story and a memory that I have.
All right, there's a fun story. Let's get to the 2019 GCA Greenbrier Christian Academy Varsity Baseball Gators. The Virginian Pilot in their story on baseball has you ranked second in the region. I think you're one of the top 10 in the state. No question, can win it all. One of the things you said in the pilot is you thought this was going to be an exciting season. What makes it exciting?
Well, we you know what, John? It's all about the kids. You know, you can have a group of talented players, and if they're all jerks and you don't like them, then it's maybe exciting on the field, but the group of kids that you spend a lot of time with aren't exciting. And this group of kids is pretty amazing, the way they gelled and meshed. And that's half the battle with having a well-rounded quality team, is having a group of kids that want to play together, like to play together, and generally have fun together.
Now you've got, and by the way, we're with head coach of the GCA Varsity Baseball Gators, Pat Nichols. Coach, you've got a couple of D1 commits, one D3 commit. You want to tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, we've got a senior, JT Inskeep. He's one of the best, most well-rounded players in the state. He's corner infielder, pitcher JT Inskeep. I've known JT for a long time, since he was, about 9 or 10 years old. And JT is pretty special player. He's going to VMI. We have another one, a young man that plays shortstop named Nick Britt, that is committed to William & Mary. Mm-hmm. He's as smooth an infielder as you'll see. Swings the bat well. He's a pretty well-rounded player. We have an outfielder, Josh Stevens, who's committed to Christopher Newport. Left-handed hitter, runs well, hits ball well. So we got 3 guys that are currently committed to college programs right there, but it's going to be more.
So when I look at your team, and we're doing the game tonight, you're solid. Your lineup's got to be one of the best in the Commonwealth, up and down. Everybody hits the ball hard, 1 to 9. You've got a deep bench. You got people that can DH. There's not an out in that order. You guys are going to score a ton of runs this season. I look at your pitching staff, though, and after you get through JT Inskeep, who's your ace, the senior going to VMI, there's not a lot of depth there on paper coming back. How do you deal with that?
You know what, John, and I've had a lot of people say that to me about this year too. But you know what, when you have a team that's as talented offensively as this group is, people are going to look for something to say, hey, this is where they're weak. And I don't necessarily think that our weak spot is on the mound. I just think that we are unproven on the mound. There's a big difference. Big difference in that. As the season progresses, I would wager to say that we'll have some players step up that make it so that that's not our Achilles heel, that potentially could be one of our strengths. We've
also got some really good young players, a good nucleus coming up. Couple of freshmen that is on your varsity squad. Gavin Whitehurst, that came, I think, from where did he come from?
He came from Great Bridge.
Yeah. He's a freshman, left-handed pitcher. He got a key out for you. By the way, the Gators 2-0. Tonight's their third game. He got a key out for you in your opening game in the Outer Banks on Saturday. Game was tight at the time. I think it was like the 2-zip only. They had the bases loaded, 2 outs. He got a big out for you, and then you were able to close that game out. You've also got another young left-hander, Bailey Mattel. Tell us a little about him, because a lot of people say he's going to be really good.
Yeah, well, first of all, let's go back to Gavin. If you're willing to take a freshman and put him in a game and you're up 2-0 in the 5th inning with the bases loaded up for his first varsity appearance, you're pretty confident that he's pretty good. Mm-hmm. So that's Gavin's going to be a special player. He is a well-rounded player. You've got Bailey Matella, who's actually starting the game for us today on the mound, that you're going to be calling. But Bailey is he's a 6'3" lefty throwing in the low 80s already as a freshman. And you watch the way his arm works, you can just see it. You know that he's got a chance to be really special. And we could talk about him, but on the flip side, they've got to put in the work. And if these boys put in the work, especially these 2, and including your son, Joseph, there's 3 lefties that I've got that are all going to be really good. And, we're really excited about it, but we also want to make sure we set them up for success and bring them along the right way.
Well, you got to do the work. There's no question about that. You can get the fanfare, but like as you said, you brought Gavin in, and I thought, well, this is an interesting move. That was a tight game, your first game, his first game, and he got the big out. And so, the proof is in the pudding at the end of the day. But you got 3 young left-handers, all freshmen, Bailey, Metella, Gavin Whitehurst, and Joseph Fredericks, my son, obviously. And I think he's starting the JV game on Saturday is what I've heard. I heard that through the proverbial grapevine at GCA baseball. So we'll see how that goes. I'm out of time for this segment. I really want to thank Coach Pat Nichols for being with us, and they're 2-0 this season. Their third game tonight at home at GCA over the radio, WPMH AM 1010 and 100.1 FM on our station here, starting at 5:30. And you can also get the game streaming on the John Fredericks Radio Network app, or if you don't know how to do that, you can just go to John Fredericks Radio, hit listen live at 5:30. And we will be live. First time in history that we've had high school baseball in Hampton Roads. And who do we have on? Pat's team. Can't beat that. Pat Nichols, coach. Pat, tonight's game, good luck.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
All right. John Fredericks.